Welcome to the Sheds podcast, where we discuss and shine the light on issues affecting South Africans and possibly everyone across the world. It's a podcast where we're hoping to contribute and make some meaningful contribution to the country as a whole by shining the light on issues that are affecting the people. My name is Nyani Sojeku. I'm with Unkosana Likwatolo.
Morning, guys. Thanks again for being here, and thanks for viewers again. We are here now, our second edition, or third edition, in fact,
yes.
of the Shed podcast, and we're excited today. We have got an amazing guest in the studio.
Definitely, Mhlaz. I feel blessed, Mhlaz.
No, sure,
I feel utitlo to unat because the stature of our guest today. It's one of those things that when you come across in life, yes, you realize that whatever you are doing is indeed going to contribute to a bigger objective, yes, and an objective of meaningfully contribute to the society. Otherwise, right, Mhlaz?
No, right.
Weekend be right, Mhlaz.
Weekend was
load shedding has not affected you.
Funny load shedding. It's one of those stories. It's here, and we have to navigate ourselves around it.
You won't believe it, yeah. I went to church with Mbatlas Ainwang, and that was because of load shedding. Literally, Mbanom go 4 on a Friday, and it was up until the following day. Electricity was not back. I went to church, I came back, it was not back. And the reason is because between load shedding times, thieves get an opportunity to steal cables, to destabilize the infrastructure, and then what you get up with is that while you are supposed to have electricity out for 4 hours or 6 hours, there's an additional 10 hours as a result of stolen infrastructure and things like that.
I can tell you for free that I'm struggling to keep up with our stages. You can move from stage 4 to stage 6 and back again to stage 5. So it's what we have now. We have to navigate ourselves around shading. So we're hopeful that today we've got a guest who's going to uplift us and uplift the mood.
And shine the light,
and shine the light.
Because we may be in the dark, but the light is there.
Yeah, the light is there.
Namhlanje, we are touching on a very sensitive matter. A matter that is not often discussed on platforms like this. A matter that is sacred in nature. A matter that, because of the problems as a result of opportunistic elements, it has now been brought to the fore. It's become compelling that it be discussed so that those who don't understand can at least understand what are these things all about, what do they hope to achieve, how do they contribute to society, where do they come from, and all of that. And we're talking about circumcision, initiation, a very sacred process, a very respectable process that has gained disrespect and condemnation from society because of the elements which our guest will actually shed the light on. Obviously, Mkhiva will also be talking about Twala.
In the mix there.
Yes, in the mix.
It's part of our tradition. I think
exactly.
It's a long tradition.
Definitely, Mkhiva. And then before we go to Farm Mkhiva, Ubongani Pikinini is here as our technical person who's doing a great job. Mkhiva, I'm very impressed with the outlook of the podcast, how it appears, the technical aspect, the introduction, everything. We appreciate. Don't forget to view, to like, to subscribe, and to share, so that the word spread about a podcast. And I think that's it, Mkhiva. And where do I start, Mkhiva?
I'm going to leave it to you to introduce our honorable guest in the studio who graced us today.
Put Zolani Mkhiva.
Sekunjalo ma-Afrika mahle, izizwe ngezizwe zehlabathi ziyasondela kweli lizwe. Icekwa lijonge kude kwela hlobo. Makube njalo ke sikhumbule isithethe sethu, khona ukuze silungise apho sinamanqele khona. Sithi sibhiyozela ubuntu bethu, khona ukuze siphefumlelane ngendebe endala. Umntu ngumntu ngabantu.
Member of Parliament. I think that's also, we are blessed that a member of Parliament has descended, came down to us. He's also a General Secretary of Contralesa, which is the Congress of Traditional Leaders Association of South Africa. It's the body that has been in existence since 1987, and it was started to sort of bring together all traditional leaders with a view of shining the light on issues pertaining to tradition, because those are the issues that make us who we are. Whether we like it or not, we may abandon them at a later stage, we may forget about them, but these are the issues that make us who we are. And he is also in Bongi, praise singer, having praise sung from Tatu Mandela since 1990, and having traveled the length and breadth of the world, met leaders like Gaddafi and everybody else. So really, a man of big stature. I call him Putim because where I come from, a man of his seniority, you don't just say Zolani Mkhiva. And all of that. But Zolani,
welcome to the studio.
Thank you, my brother. Diphuma kumabandla kamja kangoma kavezi ijekuli zala kulandela amangqandanda eluhlwini angalandelwa nangusathana wembala. Izikhabakhabane zakhaba ngenyawo wawelithukela. Inkomo ezimnyama zikaRhenqwa zikaMancoba zikadalathile zikangqongqotwane. Ndim lowo umaguqagalele njengengonyawo. Ngulele bafethu man, thank you for having me. Actually, I really appreciate the fact that you invite me to be part of your program right from inception, because if you are doing edition number 3, you are still, building the foundation and ensuring that the baseline is concretized and is firm enough for it to be taken to the country, to the continent, and to the world. And I wish you the very best, because also you have invited me as the year begins, at the start of the year, and this is my first interview of the year.
Wow.
In the country.
Yes. Wow.
And so it's a blessing for me, and I don't take this for granted. And I want to take this opportunity to wish you all the best as this year begins, to yourselves, to your families, and more importantly, to your audience. May the audience support you, because the instrument that you have begun, you must yourselves not take it for granted, because it is going to be helpful in the management of the national question as we try to make amends, in our country, which is beset by a variety of challenges. And therefore, through this roundtable, through this podcast, we are going to be able to compare notes, share views, and come up with some pertinent suggestions which could help us to find solutions to the midst of the problems that we're confronted with. So thank you for having me.
And but that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. May I say this?
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Also, I think you'll be a resident. It won't be the first. This is not the first time.
Yes, the last time, exactly.
We'll put Zolani, you'll be coming again.
Yes, exactly.
Anytime, no problem.
No problem. First interview of the year, his first interview, and he comes at our third segment. Basically, we're at the beginning. The start could not have been this amazing, this excellent. So we were indeed blessed, and coming from issues of custom, tradition, and things like that. It shows that the podcast is blessed by God, by ancestors, by everything that is superior and has got a demonstration of seniority out there. So, and thanks for the well wishes, and it also demonstrates your humility that you come at this early stage. You didn't even ask Bana. He just said, okay, it's fine, that's good. That said, we are talking about initiation board, and like I said, a thorny issue, an issue that ourselves will respect and want to particularly zoom into the Amaxhosa version of the process, and for obvious reasons, and reasons which we will get into it. But before we even go very far with it, ULWALUKO, what is initiation? What is Ukientabeni? Why is there so much, excitement, fanfare, and to the amusement at times of those who don't understand it, to the ridicule at times of those. Why do Abantu even choose to go there while a lot that we're going to talk about is happening? And what is its contribution?
Maybe before I tackle that question, let me say this, which I think will help myself and yourselves, to preface this discussion. I just came back from home. I was home. I came back yesterday. Now, to us, we have a particular way of defining the festive season. we say it is a momentous epoch where we go to interface with our families. And equally, it is also an opportunity for us to intercede with our ancestors and the God of Africa, which is the God of humanity. Now, December in the history of recency, as well as the entire festive period of November, December, January, has been declared recently as the summer season of initiation. Now let me answer your question. Initiation is a rite of passage from boyhood to manhood for the boys. But initiation is not only meant for the male species. It is also the rites of passage from girlhood to womanhood for the girls. You see? Because we as Africans, we have always been a society that appreciates gender equity. And you must underline equity as different to equality.
Yes.
So the notions of patriarchy has never existed in the pre-colonial African setting. So what gets done for the left hand gets done for the right hand. What gets done for men also is done for women. The difference is in the nitty-gritty and the modalities. Absolutely. So ndiza kwinto ethi ke ulwaluko, to be in particular, is a custom and a ritual which is meant for men to initiate boys into manhood. And it is the most important institution of education, and also an institution to prepare future leaders of a nation. And therefore, this custom has always been elevated to the center of our society as Africans in general. But I will speak as Mkhiva because that's where I come from and that's where it is practiced. But it is not exclusively for Xhosa. It is found in all the African societies. And it is then customized in accordance with their own history, heritage, and background. But what is fundamental are the commonalities, which I always capitalize on because we are one people as Africans. Now we happen to be in this geographical space, and this is what we do here. And over time, and it has also evolved because it is no longer the same exactly as was there. You understand? The type of blanket that we use, just to make an example, is different from the one that my great-grandfather used.
It's modernized now,
It's modernized now, and it has elements which have been adopted from here and there. So this practice is so important, so much so that its importance can never even be equated to the degree that you have from university.
Wow.
Because this one is a degree of life that when you get it, no one can take it or revoke it. You know, it's yours. And so that's how it is important. And it is something that our people have also become so religious about that if you have not done it, you can sort of feel incomplete as a person. Yes. So it brings that completeness in you as a young person. And when you have not been there, even though you are blank about the details of what happens there, you are always eager and looking up to that moment. So it is in itself a momentous epoch for the young people of our country.
If you were to chip in the Zolani, the tradition itself, how old is it? If you were to, in African culture, in our culture, how old is it?
Well, it has existed from time immemorial. You cannot even say this is the period in which it was introduced. It is as old as our society, and it is as old as our heritage. It is as old as our genealogy. So it has always been there from the beginning of time. So that's what I would say.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's one of the oldest traditions which have been maintained and sustained over generations and generations. And for me, it will still continue for many, many generations to come and for many, many centuries to come because of its importance. You know, we are calling it correctly. It is the initiation ritual. It is not circumcision. Yes. Because many people make that mistake of reducing it to just one module, which gets done in the initiation season. But it is bigger than that.
So at school, it's like someone they take one subject, but at school you're taught other subjects, other things.
It's
not
multiple
only one.
subjects. Yes. Because it tackles the whole life cycle which you are introduced to. You know, how to manage, difficulty, how to manage celebration, how to deal with issues of behavior as a person, how to relate to the elderly, how to relate to your counterparts, and so on and so forth. So it's a multifaceted syllabus.
So it's an institution.
It's an institution.
It's not a one element based and an element which people tend to highlight.
There's a multiplicity of modules that you get introduced to, and there is also it is an opportunity where there is an exchange of knowledge and a transfer of skills as people prepare you to be this person who is expected to play a role at a family level, at a community level, and even in the nationness of your own country.
You know, because Zolani, its importance is such that even those who have not been there long to go there. Those who probably, based on subscription to particular beliefs, will never go there, remain curious about what happens there.
It keeps us on our toes.
In fact, the fact that we're talking about it on this platform, it was of the curiosity that is out there. You know, guys, I remember with me, as early as when I was 15, 16 years, I took my chances with my father. Now, my father is very strict. So I said, Tata, and I was not and years later, I would be pestering him. And the truth is that I knew nothing. But the importance and the significance that is attached to it, its value and all of that. But Puti Omyumtu would say, you're talking about a transition from boyhood to manhood, an initiation process. You're talking about teachings that one gets, preparing themselves to be a leader, to respect society, to respect peers, to respect seniors. Omyumtu would say, why must you go to the mountain for that? Why must you leave home and go and be somewhere else where ordinary people don't go? Why must you be taken out of the... Why can't you just say, you must respect, you must... Why is the process so important? Why must it be only that way?
It's because it's a communal instrument which is meant to impact on everyone's child the same medicine that he ought to get, so that you can have a full appreciation of the values of your own society, how Ubuntu must be embraced and how it should be practiced. Yes, there is a role that the family plays in terms of the teachings, but this is a point at which you have to go for that graduation, so that you are fully placed there for a period of a month to 3. Remember, in the good old days, they spent 6 months as a minimum. Otherwise, it used to. It used to go to a year sometimes. But because of the evolution of our society, and of course the interference which has occurred as a result of colonization and other uninvited guests,
industrialization and all that,
and all of those things, modernization. So it has now been reduced to a maximum of 2 months. You know, sometimes it's just a mere month. So it is the single formal education which gets offered in a pre-colonial society where children go there, because other than the home-based education, which we have always done as Africans, but this one is an education where you go formally to go and register, and then you are taken through by people that are other than your parents, but people that you may be aware of who come from your community. Of course, the support of your family members would also be there whilst you're there. But there will be different people who will be attending to you, will be interacting with you. But you also have an opportunity to interact with your peers because you are not alone. You are not just taken to school to be taught alone. You are taught with other boys of the village, adjacent village, as well as the community.
So it's community upliftment.
Yes, it's community upliftment. And you begin to learn some of the songs of the nation. And you begin to appreciate that this particular song and this dance is meant for this and that.
Wow.
You understand? Of which at home you would not be taken through that.
Yes,
You understand? So they pay attention to the detail in terms of what you are taught.
Yeah. Well, Zola, just to come in as well, I mean, talking about initiation as well, to say we already established that it's as old as humanity is. To say what are the values that are supposed to be imparted on those who go to the school, in molding them to be future leaders, future fathers. And what are some of the
those
values?
values? They are about self-respect, self-love, but the love of your family, the love of your community, and the appreciation of your nationhood. These are some of the broader values that I take, but there are values that come closer to you as a person, wherein you have to appreciate your brother equally as you appreciate yourself.
Oh.
And Ubuntu has got this thing of sharing. Sharing anything that you have, including knowledge, including when you have material resources, you must have that sense of sharing. So communalism is older than communism. And I believe that communism is derived from communalism because communalism has always existed in the foundations of our society, which was led by traditional leaders. So that's what you are that's what you are taken through to learn, to have a full appreciation that you are because you are. You understand? That's what it's all about. These are the finer values. Of course, when I get into some details of what actually takes place there, as we said in the introduction, that this is a sacred environment. There's a certain detail which we can share, which is obviously known by everybody. And but there are certain details that we cannot talk about because we have to respect.
Yes.
It's also about self-respect because our tradition, in them, there is what is called our own African sophistication. And it is that sophistication that makes us a cut above the rest in the universe. And there are things that you don't have to give away because they are yours. And it doesn't suggest that you are self-centered or selfish, but it's to protect, preserve, and promote that which you want it sustained for many generations so that it does not get exposed and then gets to be exploited, and then it will diminish the meaning of what it represents.
In fact, the protection and the preservation of the initiation practice is what has kept a lot of people guessing. The interest out there that comes from everybody, it's because it remained protected, even if it's more in its most trying times. But who are the role players? Omuntu will say because kuyamakhwenkwe pha abuye ngamadoda. Omuntu will say hayi into yamadoda le. And then the question would be umama onomntana engena umuntu ongutata la kungekho utata ukho engena myeni engena malume kungekho umuntu indoda okufutshane naye. So who are the role players? Ngaba into yomuntu wonke, and then what are the levels of the roles that are played in making this boy to become a man that would be loved, appreciated.
Transition from being a boy.
Exactly.
Well, you are asking a very, very important question, and I'm happy that you asked me that question. The role players is more than just men. Actually, women play a very key role in the initiation season for both boys and girls. But because we are discussing ULWALUKO, which is the boys' initiation, the the temporal structures, for instance. I'll make an example of that, which are set up where the boys are going to be staying in for that month or 6 months. Women are part of that. They are part of building it. They are actually leading in terms of ufulela, as it.
So the structure that will be housing this man,
Yeah.
women play a role in building
Building it.
Wow.
They are actually the builders.
Wow.
I would
Wow.
go to the extent of
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that they are the one who actually construct them and ensure that they patch them.
That brings back that
They patch
equity
them
we're speaking about.
Yes, yeah. So women play that role.
From
So,
the onset, they're involved.
From the onset, they are the one that prepare a place where this initiation will actually be taking place. And number two, women continue to be a source of lifeline to these children whilst they are there, because the food they eat is prepared by women. So they play that role, and they are not excluded to play that meaningful role. Men are obvious, senior members of the family play that role. Yes. So the stakeholders come from both sides. You understand? And even the children are the ones that are sent to take the food in. And these children include boys and girls.
So that's communalism.
That's the communalism that I'm talking about. So it's all hands on the deck. People hold hands together to make this project a success.
So a man that you will see emerging from initiation school, coming back to society,
Yes.
that man has an understanding and appreciation that I'm who I am
because of the community.
community.
Yes. I'm a
And serve the
product
same
of the
community, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the initiation school, we are
Yes.
basically building a man and at the same time building communities.
Absolutely. It's all about that. It's
But
never,
Zolani, you mentioned something very interesting about some of the values that boys have been taught in the initiation school, that such as, being able to respect the next person. Would you say that, we've somehow lost that tradition, those values, and the problems that we have in a society? It's now we've seen the GBV, men not respecting women. So some of those values, would you say that they are lost somehow because of we're no longer probably following the same tradition somehow?
well, we obviously have challenges. Some of those challenges have come as a result of our very bad history as a country. Our society has been ruined through introduction of many things that are anti-culture and that are un-African and anti-African in character and in content. And this has permeated into our society to the extent that when we had a violent government, which was a violent regime which instilled terror in our communities, that translated to our families. Remember that the migrant labor system itself was an instrument of terrorism, because what it did, it broke down our families, where our mothers had to be left in the margins of society, and their husbands had to go into the labor centers to go and sweat in order to feed their families back.
So the family structure was broken.
The family structure was broken, and that created a whole range of things. The treatment meted to these laborers were in mines and factories and so on was so brutal, so much so that it has to do with the mental illnesses that now we see coming in full blow right in our generation.
The attitudes, the behavior.
All of those things. So I would say that, therefore, these risks have also touched in some of our very valuable rituals, including this one. Some of the things that are happening in some of the initiation schools, they fail to represent our tradition in its original doctrine, to the extent that we think that those initiation schools are rogue initiation schools. Most of them are bogus. And as a result, some children are trapped into going there. And of course, then they learn wrong lessons. What they are taught there is not what they are supposed to be getting. So there's an outright representation and an outright misinterpretation of what ought to be happening there. And the byproduct, therefore, is going to talk to exactly that, which is negativity. The issue of the gender-based violence and the horrendous nature in which women are being treated is actually anti-African, un-African, and it should be condemned, with the strongest terms possible. And we must not only stop at condemnation. I think we need to go back to the grassroots, into the ground, and ensure that we arrest the situation and come up with measures which are going to help us to turn around the situation. Because it has become so endemic that year on year we lose children. They die in the initiation schools. This year alone, in the Eastern Cape alone, we have lost more than 20 children.
Sure, that's a lot.
To lose a child who has gone through a ritual is one too many. But if a culture or a cultural practice start to kill its own people, then that cultural practice is threatened. Because that practice is not meant to kill, it's meant to create livelihood.
To uplift.
To uplift society, to do all of this thing.
Protect and
So we are very much concerned as the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa, and we are doing everything that we can to turn around the situation. One of the suggestions that we are making, for instance...
In fact, just before you get to the suggestions, you spoke about bogus initiation schools.
Yes,
That to me says there is a standard original process that is followed, which when followed to the T, it would alleviate an element of the presence of bogus initiation schools.
Definitely.
Meaning these boys will not find them at these bogus initiation schools. Therefore, the bogus initiation schools will not thrive. Any market, once it's got no customers, it dies. What is the process that must be followed? What is the original process that is supposed to be followed? A process which is well known, a process which I would think when properly followed, then the bogus initiation schools that end up contributing to the death of the boys who are supposed to contribute to society will not thrive at all, will in fact be exposed and ultimately die. What is that element? In an actual way, I'm saying, could it be that we've lost it somewhere?
Okay. Maybe let me tackle this question this way. That the issue of the fatalities and the deaths, which are now happening at grand scale in the initiation school, is a new phenomenon. And it is a new phenomenon because I think it is informed by the recent challenges that engulf our society of unemployment, inequality, and so on and so forth. To the extent, and crime and corruption. This initiation practice is a very big pilgrimage, if I may call it that, because it talks to hundreds of thousands of children of our country who go through the winter season and the summer season. Other people see that as a money-making scheme, right? So I want to preface the answer to your question with that. Now, given the fact that many people do not draw a line between, in fact, they read the rights differently from the responsibility. And yet rights and responsibilities are the two sides of the same coin. So people think that democracy has brought them an opportunity to do as they wish, including interfering with matters of sacredness, which are not supposed to be handled through rugged individualism or loosely. The institution of traditional leadership is still firmly part and parcel of our society. That is why when you listen to me, in most cases I would say South Africa is a republic of a special type, because we recognize the existence, the role and the function of the institution of traditional leadership in the management of the national question. So the issue of initiation and other rituals and rites and customs is still placed firmly under the jurisdiction and the jurisprudence of the institution of traditional leadership. So in order for us as a people to alleviate the challenge of the deaths and the fatalities that occur there, we need to follow all those terms and conditions which are placed by the institution of traditional leadership, and not read them together with other laws which tells you that you can do as you wish because you have certain rights as a citizen. Yes. You don't have a right to kill your child, even if you've got the rights. So I'm saying that the process is very clear, my brother, is that no school, no initiation school should admit a boy without the consent of the parent.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah.
And a parent may not be your biological father or mother, but could be any guardian who is placed the responsibility of parenthood over you, who must take you there. The bogus initiation school check in these children,
Without
even
the parents
without
knowing,
anyone, without anyone,
Yeah.
without even someone pretending to be a parent. You know, because what they are after is the buck. They are looking for a quick buck. So I'm saying that the process is very clear. It is the role and the responsibility of the parent to take the child to the school. Of course, there are certain checks and balances that the family ought to look out for. One, they need to go to the senior traditional leader or the headman of the area or the sub-headman, anyone in the institution of traditional leader. And they then have to identify a recognized traditional session, and they have to ensure that there is a designated traditional nurse, and three, there must be a designated family member who is going to be there with the child from the beginning to the end of the process. So all of those things taken into account, I'm just giving just those ones, all of those taken into account will definitely alleviate the fatalities. I am not saying that there are no natural causes which occurs now, which did not occur then. There are issues sometimes that we're confronted with of lightning and thunder, which sometimes strike. You know, lightning is attracted by sweat.
Causes,
You know, so it's some of the things that we can use modern technology to prevent lightning from striking the schools. But there are also natural causes of sickness. That is why we are agreeable that as part of the regulations is that there should be a medical checkup before a child is checked in, so that we are able at an early time to detect that this boy is not fit for purpose to go there to the school for now, and therefore he must be first be cured and be healed before he is checked in.
So meaning before the boy undergoes the initiation process,
Yes.
he is subjected to medical checkup as we know it.
Yeah, it should not
Go
be.
to a doctor,
It should not
to a
be.
nurse.
It should not be one checkup. There should be a series of interactions with the family medical practitioner. So, in other words, there must be a minimum at least of 2 or 3 checkups leading up to you being admitted.
And this looks at physical fitness and health.
Absolutely. Looks at all of that. But you see some parents as well, besides the bogus schools, some parents, because of one reason or the other, or pressure or something, they sometimes negate even a medical report that says, don't take this child through.
And still push ahead.
And they still push ahead. The first case in 2022 December was actually is from Buffalo City area. This child passes on 3 days, and the doctors had clearly said to the parents, don't check in, because there is an issue of high blood pressure and diabetes and so on. But they went on to take the child, and the child, because was not fit, and therefore he was the first victim.
But Zolani, to bring it home again, in 2023, and there's a lot of noise out there, you know, and I think you spoke about how important this tradition has been and how old it's been. But the noise out there, you know, your rights groups who are saying, no, do we still need initiation school in 2023? Yeah, it's the 21st century. I mean, even our young audience that are on social media, they who don't know the tradition as well, they say, Why can't we just close them and people go to normal schools? What's your response to that?
You will exacerbate the problem if you do that.
Okay.
You will make people to go underground, and underground would lead to a proliferation of bogus initiations.
So it will be like throwing the baby with the bathtub.
Yes, exactly. So you don't want to act in an irresponsible way. But what we must do as a new South Africa, as a democratic state, as a government of the people, is to have a full appreciation of this ritual and elevate it to the level that it is supposed to be. Now, as government, government ought to institutionalize the initiation seasons and also formalize them. And over and above, they must then allocate resources. It should not be in a piecemeal fashion.
Yes.
That we only deal with this in a form of a crisis management instrument. Let's plan ahead. Let us not be reactive, let's rather be proactive. But I'm using formalization and institutionalization because these are supposed to be the national schools. You understand? So I have this grand idea that even the president must declare the initiation season.
And cut the ribbon.
Yes.
For
Not necessarily, not necessarily, but to make a declaration.
To be formal,
Yeah, to make a clarion call that the initiation season will start from the 1st of June
until
to the end of August, as an example. And therefore, let's put our hands on the deck. Because the way now...
Let's be in prayer about it.
Yes.
Let's recognize that there's this sacred initiation.
So that those who need to go through what is called, mediation. They must start the process of mediation in preparation for that. Those who need to go to cultural seclusion, that's the word I was looking for, as they prepare for this, they do that. Because there are certain things that people ought to do before they conduct certain things, so that there is full discipline that is employed as we begin to manage each of these seasons. That's what I want us to
what I like about what Zolani is saying is for, especially speaking from the cultural aspect of Contralesa, therefore for the culture being regulated, being properly managed, and that's a good positive
having
step.
countries' resources behind the process. I mean, he talks about president. Imagine how wonderful it would be where the president of the country would declare call a family meeting that announces that we are now in this period, and it basically calls onto the entire nation, even those who are not practicing it, to sit in their homes.
It's a very important period, If you make a research, and I think you can even use the desktop research in this. This is a multi-billion, season. These seasons, the level of contribution they make into the gross domestic product maybe is beyond your imagination. Look, people buy blankets, the food. Livestock that is used.
Obviously, the families from relatives travel all the way.
New clothes,
new clothes, and then the celebration, the homecoming ceremonies are worth, billions on their own.
So it's an economy on its own.
It's an economy on its own, and if then it is left there without being guided by leadership, it's problematic. We, as the institution of traditional leadership, we have every capacity and capability to deal with this. But remember that certain responsibilities are now with the government. And therefore, we have to partner with government in order to realize some of the proposals, the policy proposals that we're putting across, including the fact that we're saying, let's formalize this, let's institutionalize it. It's our proposal to government, and we're engaging with government. But government is a huge elephant, and it takes time sometimes to turn the corner. So I'm saying that that's what we are dealing with at the moment. But we are hopeful that given the fact that children are dying, everybody sees the need that there is urgency, that we must sit down and ensure that no more death must happen going forward.
Just two questions, Babu Zolani. Just wanted to find out, Uti, is ULWALUKO, lisiko na ULWALUKO, why am I asking ukuthi lisiko now? Because kuye kuthiwa kube nalento ethi isiko liyagulela. And I don't remember someone getting sick for ULWALUKO. That's my question yokuqala. Second question is kunomama ohleli pha uthi kahle kwenziwa ntoni pha entabeni, because abafana babuya babe ngama gangsters xa bebuya pha. Yintoni le ethethwayo, yintoni lento abafundiswayo pha entabeni le eyenza ukuthi bangabuyi bangalamadoda la ekufuneka ukuthi babe ngawo.
Okay. Let's first deal with the first question. ULWALUKO lisiko. You know, kukho into ekuthiwa sisithethe, kukho into ekuthiwa lisiko. Isithethe is a norm. It's what it's what must be done. But it is actually, you are not forced, as it were. But this one is mandatory. The other one is voluntary. You know, even though it's encouraged that everybody must do it. But if this one called isiko you don't do, you are likely to face many difficulties in life, including illnesses, misfortunes, and everything that has to do with the dark clouds around your life. Lisiko elo. So it's a must, it's mandatory. And it's actually career limiting as well if you don't do it. Let's assume that you had ambitions of being a leader of your local municipality, and you come from that cultural background. There is no one who's going to be wanting to be led by a boy who is in control.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they would say. So there are a number of things other than you getting health ill, you know. So it's definitely unhealthy to your own life not to go through that transition.
So you'll be unfit. The community will see you as unfit.
You will be unfit for purpose because you haven't gone to that school of life, as it were, in the school of manhood, school of leadership. and then there is another question. Unless,
okay, yes, it's fine.
Unless
answer
you
that.
So your question, just repeat it.
Question bisithi nankumama uthi yintoni kanti efundiswayo kakhulu bengama gangsters.
Of course there are boys who go in and they come worse than when they went in. It's exactly what I spoke about, that some of these schools have been captured and they are now misrepresenting our cultural outlook out there, where children are taught wrong things, where children are given dacha, are given alcohol when they are there, and they are taught to look down upon women, to see women as non-entities. And all of those are happening in these bogus schools. I call them bogus because that's not what they are supposed to be teaching children. They are supposed to teach children to respect women. In our culture, you know that women are actually placed at the center of administration of our families. You know, a teacher at home is a woman, the mother. The nurse, the nurse at home is a woman, is the mother. The finance manager at home is the woman, is the mother. So the broader administration of the family operations is the mother and the woman. And that's what we must be teaching our children. You know, because the father figure in the majority of cases, yes, is a breadwinner, and he provides protection and defense for the family. But on the overall, he is more of a ceremonial leader who maintains that discipline and the decorum of the family.
So the real person behind it,
the real person who is at the center of holding the family together is the mother. That is why even the tenure security, the institution of traditional leadership in its wisdom from time immemorial, has always placed the tenure security to a mother. If uzaba nomfazi uya komkhulu uyocela inxibo uthi ke umfazi wakho uzaba intombi yasemathileni, yiyo lento kuthiwa lamzi wakho kuthiwa kukwamaRhadebe basi akuthiwa kukwakho. Uyaqonda? Xa uzawuthatha umfazi wesibini kuba umfazi wakho seyenamasu, imbeleko zabantwana bakhe zimbelwe apha esililini selinxele, awukwazi uthatha omnye umfazi uphinde ummilisele apho uphinde uye komkhulu uyocela inxibo. kuthiwe ke ngoku eli lelikamanyawusi.
Mhlekazi, if ufuna umfazi wesibini ufuna enye indawo apha eGoli mhlekazi, you have to buy a separate house mhlekazi. It's not
You
for
just do it random.
No, mhlekazi,
So
just get a girlfriend.
I'm trying then to emphasize that this GBV has no place in our society.
True, yeah.
This talking down and hardening of the hearts of women in our country has no place in our society. It is a total distortion of our culture. It is a total misrepresentation of our cultural outlook. And therefore, the institution of traditional leadership distances itself from all men who do such kind of nonsense to our society.
So every man who's abusing a woman and claims to have went to the
Well,
initiation school,
Jamna.
it says and if they are doing that, it means they've went to a bogus.
Yes.
Obviously.
They are dishonoring the institution.
Yes.
You don't get taught to beat up a woman or anybody.
They
for
never
that
got the
matter.
teachings.
You don't get taught to be a drunkard. You don't get taught to disrespect society.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
get taught to look down upon people.
Yeah.
You go there to be made a better person. So once you come back, Bongani Mhlekazi, if these boys come back drinking a lot, smoking dacha, disrespectful, and all of that, that is not part of contributing to the society. Utu put Zolani, this is a respectful institution that shapes boys into men, so they may come back and contribute to society, help build the society. Meaning, initiation is aimed at shaping up and building up the society. If we were to all stick to the values as taught there, would be a wonderful society.
It would be a good society, a cool
But
society.
Uti, kengoku, as a contralesa, which is, the president annually opens a house of traditional leaders nationally, meaning contralesa is in close proximity. What
Is part of that.
Is part, exactly.
Yeah.
What are the stumbling blocks? Why do these bogus institutions that perform initiation illegally seem to be thriving? Where would you say like a failure or an element of lack of success or sort of you don't achieve? Because we should go to a point where, like it used to be before, where you go through a initiation season and not even one initiate dies.
My
We
brother.
come back, ebuye onke ephilile nje makusithini.
I want to tell you that people who do all these crimes and corrupt practices are not idiots. They are clever people. They think, they strategize, they plan. And
Like all criminals.
Yes, like all criminals. So they study the situation.
Yeah.
They can see the gaps
Yeah.
in the administration of what occurs there. They see the
loopholes,
the
yes.
fault lines and the loopholes between our interaction with the government. Look, the government is employing, in the majority of cases, a Western approach to issues. We stick to our guns.
Yeah.
We employ our traditional approach to issues. But what we want to see happening is to harmonize the two. Not for tradition to be assimilated by the West,
Yes.
but rather we draw good lessons from the West to strengthen our traditions. These criminals see these arguments, they see these gaps and the loopholes. So what they do, they act in the same way as human traffickers act. Because the bogus initiation schools are actually framed along the lines of human trafficking. So they trap the young children to come there with fees, which are even higher than what is paid from an authentic school. But they still are able to attract these young boys in numbers to go there. And they make this money at the expense of their lives. So I'm saying that it's pure criminality. But because now we are talking about what I'm talking about, of the difference in approach, the government would like to, at some quarters, to introduce what is called the medical male circumcision. And there are people behind that, and they include, in some instances, third parties who come from elsewhere in the world. They want to introduce what is called the Tara Tramp. What is it? Tara Clamp.
Tara Clamp.
Yes. And they also push money that says that you bring your child to the medical male circumcision, we will pay you for bringing your child, not you paying us. You understand?
Yeah.
This is creating all these challenges.
So you say put controlesa and expectedly a society that understands the purity of the practice is against a situation where, and I'm asking this because recently in the Daily Dispatch they reported that there was a man somewhere in the Eastern Cape who went the medical route, after that went home and was taken through the process, meaning just taken to their house, and they discovered that this chap went to the
it's a very
clinic.
sensitive issue.
Exactly.
I wouldn't
Then
want to
they
go
came
to
back.
detail. I don't
Yeah.
want to go to detail to it. And I just want to say that it is important that as a people, we have a history and a heritage that we have, that at all material times, we must guard against
Yes.
an attack and an onslaught on our own culture
Where we westernize
and its
everything.
cultural practices, where we open ourselves to imperialism and colonization, where we westernize everything unnecessarily. So I'm saying that yes, we have challenges which include life threats to some children who go there.
True, yeah.
All we need to do is to close ranks, and we need to come together and work as a collective and allow the custodian
Yeah.
of initiation to lead and let the government give, the ultimate
support,
support.
Would
And
you-
the support should be unlimited for something like
Definitely.
this. You see, the formal schools, we should take the initiation schools the same way we take the importance of the formal schooling. And the good thing about the initiation, it only happens twice a year. And therefore, we are not calling for huge, unreasonable monies. But we must know that this practice is still going to be with us for many generations to come. And therefore, the sooner we come up with a solution, which we have in proposals, and which is not based on thumb sucking. We know what is happening on the ground. We are the custodian of this practice. And all we need is to say to the government, come to the table. Let us not use a knee-jerk reaction, wherein we bring in the Department of Police, Health, COGTA, and Education, or as and when. It must be a permanent thing that these departments, together with the institution of traditional leadership as led by Controlesa, they come up together, and it must be part and parcel of each and every financial year to prepare and plan for this.
Okay, there is a parent out there who gave birth to their boy child while residing in Sandton, in Centurion, in Albertine, here.
In the leafy suburbs.
Yes, Mhlakazi. And brings up the boy child who is umXhosa. Ekufanele uba ngenye imini oluke abe yindoda. But lo mntu possibly akekho in touch with all these practices. Akazi uba makaqale athini.
Okay.
There is a boy who grows up and one day uzawugoduka mhlambe xa emdala enough aye kokwabo xa ifika pha una 17 18 19 20 years bizwa ngenkwenkwe yakudina sizovala hlala pha singamadoda thina. Where does lo mntu start but kuze abe ne-comfort into yobana umntwana wam uzawuya pha abuye? Andithethi ngabantu mna basemakhaya who understand and are exposed to the process, but ndithetha ngomntu uhlela apha oyibona le nto ezindabeni xa bane sithiwa kubhubhe angangoku amakhwenkwe. Where what advice to allay i-fears zakhe, what route must they take? Lo mntu is even probably thinking now unomntana ona 8 years ucinga umse ekliniki ngoku ubhuti bamthatha enze bathi siba mdala abegqibile ngayo. What would you say must do so that le ntwana izokhula ibe indoda that will be shaped the same way amaXhosa understand indoda is shaped?
Ngiyawuthanda lo mbuzo ubuza, umbuzo obalulekile kakhulu. Lo mbuzo ubuzayo ayingombuzo nje osinika imicelimingeni kwizinto ezidibene nolwaluko kuphela, kodwa ngumbuzo onosincedisa suseni umqokozo onomhlwa ezingqondweni zethu njengabantu abazibiza bangabantu abakhululekileyo. For the benefit of all of those that are listening, the cities that we have in our country and the townships are not mislocated cities of Europe that happen to be in Africa. So as a liberated people, we ought to say our education system must also mainstream our cultural outlook as a people. So that wherever you are staying or living in this country, you are aware of who you are, your background and everything. And I don't want to call it decolonization, but I would rather call it imparting on our people to know their own tradition, heritage and history, so that they are true Africans in character and content. So there's a role, therefore, that we have to do, that of mainstreaming our culture in our studies and the heritage. But also there is a role that needs to be played by broadcasters, led by the public broadcaster, in ensuring that there's patriotic education that occupies the space to help programming and come up with programming and content that is relevant to its own people first and foremost, instead of feeding people junk that comes from elsewhere in the world. And then coming to this, it would make it easier, therefore, that when a parent who is growing up his or her children in a city wouldn't have a problem, because already there is awareness. But given the fact that to change education system and the syllabus is not an easy thing, we have chosen to say that let's come up with an awareness campaign, even in cities. That is why Contralesa, the biggest provincial structure of Contralesa in the country, is in Gauteng.
Wow.
And it goes without saying why, because the majority of citizens are here.
But when up,
Yes. So we have occupied the space. There are 19 traditional councils here.
Wow.
That are not only dealing with the issue of initiation, but there is an initiation forum, which is all over the place in all the 5 regions of this province. But over and above, there are those 19 traditional councils where our people are able to interface and interact with matters that relate to their culture, their tradition, including issues that are not supposed to go to the magistrates. Imicimbi yonto kubana wena uye wenza nzima umntana wale lo micimbi yakwazi usonjululwa ngesintu without involving Western courts.
No, I wish I knew.
Yeah, that's when your child, your son impregnates another man's daughter.
Then they're going to pay
there are
damages.
bodies, that sit and talk about those things and follow a particular process. But it's a man. I think you've helped open our minds, and I'm sure our viewers will definitely appreciate this. And at the very least, when you do not have an understanding, I think with this conversation, you got to sort of understand an appreciation of the background, of the role, of the importance. And it's very good that Mhlakazi Contralesa continues engaging government, so that government can play an active role in helping shape this, so that it doesn't find itself prey or
being hijacked by bloggers.
Exactly. I mean that's beautiful. So abantu abahlekisa ngesuku lo but ayeke lento kwathi I'm sure today they really will appreciate Mhlakazi and futhi siyabulela man.
I'm at 2000 who say they've been schooled.
Exactly, they've been schooled Mhlakazi.
No, ndiyabulela. Khange ndoyika unibuza uba ingaba nolukile nani. Kuba bendingonqeni into bana lento sizothetha ngayo ndibe ndingayithetha nasemakhwenkweni. Kodwa ke uba nolukanga yani.
Still hope.
You know, ndinezilimela ziyi-20 ngoku. So mna ndingumXhosa opheleleyo ndinendawo nasebuhlanti bhuti yabana nakanjani eli lesixhosa.
Ngizama ukuthi ke bendithetha nani njengentatheli.
Exactly bhuti.
Kodwa linyaniso elithi mhlani yayo namhlani ibuyayo seninibiza ndibe khona.
Ndinonyana bhuti ungqiqo igama lakhe ngungqiqo. Mhla esiya namhla ebuya ndakumema bhuti ndithi bhuti nansi le ntwana ndifuneka iye ibuyiphila for that matter. But siyabulela man kakhulu you've helped us. I guess abalandeli be Sheds podcast Mhlakazi have heard, and I hope they will like they will subscribe,
They must comment,
they've shared,
comment section.
they will comment in the comment section. Anything goes, Mhlekazi.
Yeah.
They can, if they ask a very complicated and difficult question that we cannot answer, we'll reach out to Pudzolani and say, Pudzolani, abantu basibuza into esihlakileyo ngalaa nto kuyithetha, khawusincede. And the fact that Mhlekazi asithathanga umuntu nje, you know, when we think about this, we're saying we need to talk about this, but yeah, that Mhlekazi ndingumXhosa, ndolukele kodwa I don't think I'm qualified.
You need an expert.
Kodwa kukunyaniso phaa eGoli othethe ngesuku loloko, uyintoni yena Mhlekazi isuku leqoma, masicele umuntu Mhlekazi, uPudzolani, secretary, general secretary, we Contralesa, a member of parliament, an esteemed person who understands these matters. And I think we appreciate your contribution. Kakhulu man, kakhulu. Enkosi.
Ubulela,
Skribele Puti. Skribele Mhlekazi. Kama Mhlekazi. Yes. Yeah.